All right, homework 2 is finding side and angle measures. So you're doing this using SOHCAHTOA. You could use the other 3, secant, cosecant, and cotangent, but I would personally just stick with the main 3 that you know. All right, so the way we do this is we look at the angle and figure out what measures are labeled here. So this, in reference to this angle, this is the adjacent side, and then 15 is the hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse would lead you to use cosine. So you would set up the cosine of 26 degrees is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So the adjacent is the unknown, and the hypotenuse is 15. All right, so next thing you do is multiply both sides by 15, and that gets you x. So 15 times the cosine of 26 degrees is equal to x. So whatever you use, you can even use just a phone calculator, Desmos, graphing calculator. The number one thing to make sure of is that you are in degree mode. All right, so if we're using Desmos, you can press the little, let me clear out what I had on here. You can press this little tool thing, make sure that you're in degree mode, press that. So you want degrees, and then we can just type in here 15 times. Cosine is under the functions, so the cosine of 26, and that gives us about 13.5. So this says nearest tenth. Okay, so we've got more sides. Let's look for our angle. Number 6 has an angle. Okay, so same sort of idea, except this time it's the angle that we're solving for. So in reference to this angle, this is the hypotenuse, this is the opposite. So hypotenuse and opposite would be the sine. So we set up a trig ratio. We say the sine of the angle, which is x, is equal to the opposite, which is 32, over the hypotenuse, which is 35. Okay, so when it's the angle that you're missing rather than one of the sides, this is the scenario where you set up the inverse sign. So we are going to say x equals the inverse sine of 32 over 35. And that can get subbed into whatever calculator you're using as well. Again, just be very sure that you're in degree mode. So this one, we are going to do sine inverse of 32 over 35. Okay, so that would be 66.1 degrees. If that's off the screen. There we go, 66.1 degrees. Okay, then on our next page, we've got some story problems. So let's look at number 10. David is standing 500 feet away from the base of a cell phone tower. Okay, so we've got David, here he is. He's standing 500 feet away from the base of a cell phone tower. I don't know what the tower looks like, maybe like that. The angle of elevation from his eyes to the top of the tower is 78 degrees. If David's eyes are 6 feet above the ground, how tall is the tower? So this should have been drawn more so that his eyes are right here, because that's his line of sight. So it's from his eyes up to the top of the tower. So this gap is 6 feet. So whatever we figure out, you've already got 6 feet right here. So then you want to figure out what this measurement is and combine it with the 6 feet that we already had. Okay, so this is x. That's what we're trying to find. So in relation to this angle, this is the opposite, this is the adjacent. So with opposite and adjacent, we'd use tangent. So I'm glad we get to use all 3. So tangent of 78 degrees is equal to opposite over the adjacent. So we can get this value by multiplying both sides by 500. So multiply both sides of the equation by 500 to get x by itself, and I can sub that in. So next, 500 times the tangent of 78 degrees. So we get 2,352.3. And then very important to note that just the gap from where his eyes are up to the top, you want to add the 6 feet back in. Okay, so answer would be 2358.3 feet once you add the 6 feet back into your answer.